In a world of plastic guitars, one man.
Well, there's the start of the video right there. Hey guys, I'm Clarke, and here is the second of two videos. This is the second of two videos. If you missed last week's video, go check. You're right.
Two
videos.
Second of two.
Second of two videos. If you haven't seen the first one, go back to last week's video talking about construction of handmade guitars. To my left is John Beeson of WoodSpirit Guitars. To my right is Matt Ackerman of EGW Guitars, both very talented guitar builders. And something got mentioned that I gather was a bit of a taboo subject.
What about the passive voice? Something got mentioned.
I'm not pointing anything.
Something was mentioned.
Something was mentioned about tone woods, and I was told not to ask about tone woods. So here is a video where I ask guitar builders about tone woods. So firstly, can someone... John's really against this. John, can you explain to me what the big issue is here?
That's the problem. Is in my opinion, there is no issue.
Oh, okay, right. Where are you? You against this, or are you?
I'm not really sure what side you took there. There's no issue. Like,
okay,
I'm not sure what that means.
The question I'm asking here. The question.
My opinion is tone woods matter.
My question here is: electric guitars, do tone woods matter? So. An acoustic instrument, you understand that the resonance of the wood is what gives it its sound. So I think it's pretty safe to say tone woods are really important with acoustic instruments. With electric instruments, there are some people that don't think there's any difference. You could make it out of whatever. It's the pickups that make the difference, or the player, or both. And there are some people on the completely opposite side of the fence. So from two people that work with wood making guitars, right. I want to see where you guys come down. I mean, obviously, the guy from WoodSpirit Guitars, surprisingly enough, feels quite strongly. So talk to me. How does tone wood affect the sound of a guitar?
Well,
electric guitar.
Right off the bat, I specialize in hollow body and semi-hollow body. Therefore, I'm that crossover in between the acoustic guitar and the electrical guitar. So you definitely get more resonance out of that before you ever plug it into an amp. And so the tone woods really do matter. And I guarantee I could prove it out. I can make the exact same body out of ash, exact same body out of mahogany, and make different necks and bolt them together with the same pickups. You're going to get a different quality. Everybody knows about there's a different feel to an ebony fretboard versus a maple fretboard versus a rosewood fretboard. You know what that feels like. It's the same thing in the ear. The whole instrument reacts differently to vibration of the strings, because that's what it comes down to. The strings are vibrating. We're picking up on that. If you have, the fact a different bridge can cause the vibration to transfer to the body and to the pickups differently. The wood is all part of that. It's not the only thing that makes that, but it is a component. It's one part of that. And everybody knows the Rickenbacker jangle. It's an all maple body. Imagine that. You get a sharper, chimier tone out of it. You could put a set of Strat pickups in a Rickenbacker body, and guess what? It's going to sound like a Rickenbacker with weird pickups in it.
Yeah.
You're going to get that tone, that distinct that everybody knows about. It's like, there's proof right there that everybody jokes about, the Rickenbacker jangle.
It's
because it's a maple on maple body with a maple neck. Maple.
Okay, so I think John is kind of on the fence. He's not sure.
Not sure.
How he feels about tone woods.
I'm still working through some things.
It's PTSD right here. Matt, are you... what I'm trying to figure out is, have we got an argument here, or are we persuading people? What's the situation?
I have an opinion on it that is very non-scientific, and I think ultimately that's what matters.
Okay, go for it.
And normally I'm not going to sit here and try to prove a point one way or the other with something that is completely subjective, but I think that's the nature of the beast in this case, and this is a subjective argument. There's numerous accounts. Anyway, I mean, the number by this point in time, you've already got in the first viewing of this video. There's already comments in the comments section talking about
Matt predicted this is like going to be
Yeah,
people are
like,
going to fight on
already
this.
stacked
One.
it up.
or it's so old and tired that no one's going to give a shit. But
It's
but
interesting and surprising and flattering to me that you think that many people watch my
oh, I do,
videos, but carry on.
I do.
Just remember, Ed, stay Swiss in this. Stay Swiss.
You can. There's countless numbers of people out there that say I have this guitar with this wood setup and this guitar, and I have two identical guitars that have the same pickups and they have different wood and they sound different. Now, nothing is the same, right? You know,
I
even
was going to ask this question.
yeah, like you can't. You have no actual control. You know, control. Like if you want to have a scientific conversation, you have no actual control unless you are taking the exact same pickups and using the exact same solder and using the exact same pots and putting them into a different guitar and using the exact same microphones that have been moved. And you're capturing everything, measuring everything, and ultimately that doesn't. You might be able to scientifically prove that they make a difference, but is it a measurable difference and does it make it like ultimately the question to me is. Or I guess the statement is they matter if they matter. Okay.
To the player.
To the player.
Yeah, okay.
Indeed.
Because this is that conversation that I have with parents when they say, hey, I'm buying a guitar for my child, you know, and do I need to buy an expensive guitar or do I need to buy a piece of shit or do I need to buy something in the middle of the road? And it's like, okay, well, I can take an Esteban guitar and I can give it to Carlos Santana and he's going to play that better than I can take the most expensive custom shop Paul Reed Smith and play it myself. And then if you invert that and you give Carlos Santana, you know, the most expensive PRS in the world, of course it's going to sound better than him playing the Esteban, but it's still like at some point there's skill, at some point there's touch, you know, tone comes from your fingers, you know. There's the player and then there's the merchandise. And there's an intersection there where is the merchandise prohibitive or is it expansive? Does it allow you to play to your potential and capability, right? Well, you know, the same thing is like, how is the guitar, that feedback loop that isn't really measurable? If I pick up a guitar and it's made of concrete, it's been proven. Some guy made a
You're not picking it up.
No, right. It's like that. It's
Like
it's
this
like that
one.
one. See the previous episode. We talk about that one.
Yeah.
He reinforced studs in the wall to hold
Yeah.
that guitar.
Yeah, there are two guitars in his house that you couldn't just put into the drywall. You had to reinforce.
Yeah, there's a guy out there who made a very cool video about how he used the silicone mold to pour concrete and then put in like wood spacers so that he could, you know, actually make a concrete Strat. And it sounded all right, you know. But am I going to put that around my like? What is that going to when I'm playing that and I feel that guitar? This is where we're down in the basement again. When I feel that wood vibrating against myself and inspiring my own playing, like what is allowing me to be a better player? You know. So when I say do tone woods matter, I'm like, well, does it matter? It matters if it matters. Yeah. If you pick up a Poplar Squire and you play it. And you just rip into it and it doesn't matter what you're playing, then no, it doesn't matter.
Play it.
But if I pick up, you know, when you walk into Chicago Music Exchange and you pick up that 1969 Strat and it's got that mojo, you know, that's because that guitar vibrates and gives you something back in a very, very specific way. And that's that tone wood. Whether it comes through the output, whether it comes through the 1/4-inch jack, through the guitar cable into the amp, I'll let a scientist argue that. Mm-hmm. But if you pick that guitar and it resonates literally with you and causes you to put something more emotional and more powerful into the instrument, then yeah, it matters. But it's not really an A-B conversation.
Went deep.
I went deep. I don't know,
deep in the basement with your wood.
It's interesting. Like there's that one dude. There's the other guy who's like, you know, he strung up the. He attached guitar strings from like a table to a table, and he stuck a pickup into it and plugged it into an amp.
That sounds like something Bernth would do. Is that
Yeah,
Bernth by any chance?
I don't think it was.
Oh,
I mean, maybe he did, but like the video that I'm thinking of specifically is like the guy had a certain pickup that his guitar had, and a certain pickup that was just suspended underneath like string. Like there's tuners on one table, and 25.5 inches over here on a different table there was a bridge, and there was a pickup suspended into it, and it's plugged into an amp, and he goes, bring. And he takes the guitar and he goes, bring. and it all sounds the same. And he's recording it from a cell phone, and these amp and the table are both plugged into like a PV Bandit. You know, it's hardly like
think
a
that would be a
it's
really
hardly a scientific comparison.
If it
you
puts
know?
it into a really high headroom, clear amp and mic'd it properly,
Yeah, like
that could have been a
my
really
my
interesting
Sonicare
study.
toothbrush will sound as good as that demonstration. You know, it's like it doesn't prove anything.
I'm not backing out of my argument.
Sure.
Oh, here we
But
go.
the thing is, it's correct, and it does. And unless you're talking putting it on and looking at every single frequency level and
Yeah.
all that, it's very similar. But just like with the Rickenbacker versus a Strat, the general constructions and the wood used,
Yeah.
you'll get generally a different tone. You'll get a brighter tone.
Yeah.
You'll get a warmer tone.
Yeah, and
It's not going to be exact. It's not going to make it sound exact. And wood, regardless of what kind it is, it's a living thing.
Yeah.
You can have one piece of maple that's very different from another piece of maple. But generally speaking, in an overall guitar, it will change it slightly.
I believe that.
Before I get on to the next part of the video, I just wanted to remind you guys that when I reach 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to be giving away this signed fuzz pedal that was used on the recording of the last Brave Rival album. So if you like gear, lessons, and other guitar-related videos, make sure you subscribe to be in with a chance of winning.
This is actually something I wanted to ask you guys is, and something I've wondered for years. When I'm talking about amp modeling, what I like to say is, if I model this JCM 800, does it sound exactly the same? No.
Right.
Does it sound more similar than another JCM 800 would? Probably.
Yes.
You're that close. So
You're that close, yeah.
is this might be showing my ignorance here. Would I be right in saying that as a tone wood, ash and alder are about as similar as you're going to get between two different tone woods? Is that fair, or is there two more similar ones?
You said similar?
Yeah, the most similar, because I know that Strats use both.
I think what's more interesting than answering your actual question is by noting that I think you should drop that question to somebody who has adamantly said that tone woods don't matter, and get them to give you an answer to that question.
All
And
right,
they have,
okay.
and then they have now actually answered that they do make a difference.
Okay.
I think they're kind of different. I actually like the sound of alder more than ash.
I'm
but-
not saying they're the same. I'm saying,
Yeah,
trying to
no,
think,
I'm with you,
like,
I'm
if
with
I
you.
did maple and mahogany, they're way different.
Yeah, yeah,
But-
yeah,
so
yeah,
if
yeah.
we let's take the example ash and alder. Are you good? Because obviously, I think we can all agree that no two pieces of ash or two pieces of alder are going to sound
No.
the same. They're just different. They are
Right.
naturally
They have
the
to be
other
different.
thing that nobody really talks about, but it's a big part of it, is different woods will give you different sustain.
Yeah, yeah. We haven't even got on to sustain yet. We're still on tone.
yeah.
Okay, so we have
saying.
we have two pieces of ash and two pieces of alder.
Is that a nice piece of ash?
But I don't know yet.
Okay.
Standard ash, swamp ash.
Is it possible that that an ash and an alder piece will sound more similar than the two pieces of ash? Is that possibility, or are we talking subtleties?
There will be differences. Okay. Let's take a very famous guitar that people know. Greenie.
Okay.
Greenie.
People knows that tone. Guess what? Greenie came off a production line with how many other 100 Les Pauls that same year.
Loads.
Got the same production line pickups, got the same production line neck.
There's just
but
something
it
about
sounds
that
different.
guitar. Yeah.
It sounds different, doesn't it? Ta-da.
Yeah,
Different
it sounds-
woods,
it's-
different pieces, how components come
Right.
together. it
So
all
to
plays.
play devil's advocate here, and I am playing devil's advocate here,
Gee, I hadn't noticed.
what would it be fair to say then that buying, so taking your Greenie argument, forget the maple cat for a moment. Two pieces of mahogany. That's the bulk of the wood on that guitar, yeah? Would be
Correct.
mahogany. So would it be fair to say you're going to get as much difference by playing another one from like the next one off the line from Greenie was so different, probably. Is that going to be as different as if we'd made Greenie out of ash? Or would that be way different? Is it
I
as much
wouldn't say
about the
way different, but I truly believe that there would be a bigger difference. It's still going to be minute. You know, it's still going to be minute, but I would say the difference the next one off the line from Greenie versus using ash in the same body, there's going to be a larger difference with the ash. The other thing, if you want to go down the rabbit hole, everybody talks about the mojo and how old guitars sound different. I can tell you from a woodworker's perspective, from somebody who knows about the wood trade, importing and exporting of exotic woods and all that, the wood quality that we get now, the factories get, that we as custom builders get, even if we're seeking out, the wood quality is not as good as it was in the 50s. They were getting better quality, better grain wood. Now it's speed.
Yeah.
You're not getting old growth stuff. It's all plantation grown, farm grown. Most of the mahogany now, it's a different density than the mahogany you were getting in the 50s.
So obviously, the wood quality was better in, say, the 50s.
And
Does a guitar that's 50 years old, does it age? Does it improve? Because I know there are people who argue that it does.
I don't
Oh, like
I don't know if I could go either
torrefied
way.
wood,
Yeah,
like
torrefication,
the more it vibrates, I am not like the expert on torrefication, but I think there's enough evidence to suggest that it matters. But I don't think that wood will just naturally age and sound better. I mean, it kind of depends on where it starts from. Like does it dry out more? Like was it manufactured?
Imagine if it's a crap bit of wood to start off with. It doesn't matter if it ages; it's still a crap bit of wood.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
John, you reminded me of something that I'd forgotten. Can you just pass me Safi?
Yes.
My beautiful WoodSpirit guitars that I have just collected. Here's one I made earlier. Well, here's one John made earlier. This is my new guitar, which John has made for me, and I wanted it to be essentially, really vaguely, Fender style neck, Les Paul style body. So it's got maple cap, mahogany back. That's not what you wanted to do.
I was actually steering you towards ash with that, and the reason being is, in my opinion, the ash would have kept you slightly brighter, in my opinion, and with a lot of the playing you do and the music that you play, I thought that would lean a little better into what you do. The mahogany, in my opinion, it's a little warmer, but it's still a great tone wood. I mean, Les Pauls, how many guitars are made out of mahogany? But then again, how many great guitars are made out of ash?
So
They're
that
both
was
great woods, but that little subtle tonal difference. I think the sustain would be about the same. In my opinion, the sustain is a lot to do with the neck construction and how the neck attaches to the body. How you transfer all that vibration, and basically you start the wave at the string. What's going to keep that wave coming? Mm-hmm. What's going to keep that water moving? Mm-hmm. And so a lot of that's how the guitar is built.
So
it's
probably worth mentioning at this point that my main guitar that I usually use is Sally, as many of you will know, the Blue Strat. That is an ash guitar, so it's interesting that John picked up that ash be the right way. Some people will argue that's coincidence. Some people will argue that was John hearing the ash thing. I am not even going to go there with suggesting the argument. I'm not going to go either way on that. But the reason I went from mahogany actually was because Sally is ash. I wanted to have something different, something that I didn't already have, which is why I went for the mahogany maple cap. Okay. Final question for both of you.
Final question.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
When you're building a guitar, if it's not for a customer, obviously if it's a customer, you discuss it with the customer, you're making a guitar, why do you pick what tone wood? What's making you think I want to work with this wood? Is it just I fancy working with that wood, or is there I want this to have this particular quality, so I'm choosing this wood? Who wants to go first?
For me, having already just decided that I like to work with mahogany, I like to work with ash. They both sound. I've never put a mahogany guitar or an ash guitar in someone's hands and had them reject the tone. Okay, so at that point,
tried and trusted.
Right. So at that point, I'm going with aesthetic. If I'm painting it, if I'm painting it, I'm going with what is going to grain fill the best, so I can lay the paint down quick enough.
Practicality.
If I want to do something like to really, really highlight to get dramatic striping, using the ash and then like staining it and then sanding it back so you can get a darker grain. I mean, it's all that's coming down to aesthetic. But it's just weird to sit there and say, "Oh, I'm creating a musical device based on aesthetic," but that still comes
Aesthetic
secondary
is a
to
part
the,
of it.
It is true.
Is a
It is
part of
true.
You've got to want to pick the instrument
Yeah,
up.
yeah. But that's not aesthetic based on nothing. That's based on these tried true
You've narrowed
materials.
it down.
Now I'm going to pick
Exactly.
what meets this goal.
That's my exact answer.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's within the tried and true, because you know it's a very predictable wood. You know that you're going to get good sound out of it, and then it's okay out of that maple top that I know I'm going to get good sound out of. Oh, we want the craziest figure. We want, because I don't do painted. I don't do solid. I WoodSpirit. I want to see the wood. I want to see the grain. And so
Remember when I asked you originally? I was modeling on a US4 Junior. I was like, I'd like to have a scratch plate on it, and you were like, nope.
Nope.
I mean, in fact, you did. You were willing to do it, but you're like, I'd rather see the wood. And in fairness, I'm glad we went that way, because why would you?
I
wanna
might have
cover
said
all
I
this wood?
would have, but I wouldn't have. Yeah, no, I put too much work into this. I don't want to put a pick guard over
You don't want
it.
to cover the whole thing up. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, so let me know in the comments if you have views on this Tonewood argument. I'm really intrigued to see what some people say. Back it up though. Don't just go, I think this. I want to hear your reasons, your arguments. If you're interested in having a guitar like this or like this, then check out WoodSpirit Guitars and EGW Guitars. I'll put links below. Check out what they do. They're both awesome. What did I say in the last video? Ed the
Shred endorsed.
No,
Or
recommended.
recommended.
Ed the Shred recommended. I said I would never say it again, and here I am in the next video saying it.
said
But
it.
True.
Thank you so much for watching. And we're back.
Well,
We just wrapped up this video, and Matt has piqued my interest with something that I've never heard of. So, Matt, do you want to explain what you were just about to say?
Well, I think that if you go back and watch the video from before this week, we talk a bit about Paul Reed Smith and his innovative nature. And I've got to listen to him speak twice. And if you ever have a chance, whether or not you like PRS guitars, go listen to the guy. He's a genius.
He's a genius. He's an interesting guy.
He goes down the rabbit hole and he loves every second while he's in there. It's worth your time. Listening to him speak about his concept of the guitar being a subtraction device, not an additive device. So often we put things on our guitar. We talk about hot pickups and sustainiacs and this and this, and it's supposed to add to our sound. But really, if you think about the guitar, what we do is we put X amount of kinetic energy into the guitar. And the guitar, well, no matter what you put on the guitar, whether it's hotter pickups or this kind of tuner or that kind of bridge, or is it a bolt-on neck? Is it a neck through body? Or are there springs on the tremolo in the back? What you're getting out of the guitar is X minus anything that gets in the way of the sound coming out.
That's an interesting way of
It's
looking at it.
never adding to anything. When you put something in the guitar, that is, whether you strum it lightly or you bashing on it, your input into the guitar is X. What comes out of the guitar is X minus variable. So when we talk about tone woods, when we talk about why do you choose these screws, or why did you just run down to Ace Hardware and pick up those screws, or why do you use those tone knobs? Why are the tuners a certain kind of mass? Again, does it matter?
I've heard the whole argument with trem blocks. How heavy is a trem block? Does that
right.
matter?
And so I've
Spoiler
got
alert, yes, it does.
I've got a good friend who's a lifelong cellist, and he teaches, bless his soul, he teaches middle schoolers in orchestra. But anytime, what?
What a hero.
You want a hero. But I'll use a certain set of tuners on. For some reason, it's always tuning. It's always tuners that set him off. But he'll always chime in when I talk about using hip shot tuners or Godot tuners or whatever. Because with cellos and violins, and they use friction tuners. When you have a purely acoustic instrument, you need to be able to keep that mass as low as possible so that the only thing affecting the vibration of the instrument is the input. So why haven't they upgraded, in quotes, for accessibility? Why haven't they upgraded violins to like metal machine tuners? Well, they're supposed to be light because they want the mass down so that the
Less
input,
energy required to keep it vibrating.
So X minus variable, the variable is as small as possible, and that X can be influenced by the input in.
I'm gonna have to think on this because
Yeah.
that's an interesting point that I've never heard mentioned. Because you always, like you say, you always think
Yeah.
about amplifying, adding,
Yeah.
adding. But
And if we had Stradivarius here to actually speak on, those kind of instruments, that would be a really crazy conversation.
that might have
'cause
to be on the
I'm-
video. If I can set that up, I'd be really interested to hear that.
But I mean, it just isn't as simple of a question as do tone woods matter, because it's an instrument. There's the literally and measurable does it matter, and it's like, but functionally, does it matter?
I mean, I've not actually made this point. What I've always thought with tone woods, with string choice, with pickup choice, with everything, all the choices we make as musicians, or in your case, builders, if I changed one of them, would anyone notice? Almost certainly not. I might, but the listener's unlikely to if I changed one little thing.
Yeah.
But when you are building a guitar, how many of those one little things are there? There's so many choices to go in it, and if you add them all together, that becomes the signature sound of that guitar. If you changed 5 of them, 10 of them, 15 of them, you're starting to really change something fundamental. If you change, I mean, I can't think of a good example. If you change, probably on any product, you change one tiny thing, people aren't going to notice. You change 100 tiny things, they're noticing.
Or the order in which you change them. Like
Yeah.
there's certain, not necessarily relating to tone only, but that experience. Does the tone matter? I'm thinking of certain tuners that I've used in the past, and we'll leave brands out of this completely. But I was using one kind of tuner, and then just to see what the market was like, I wanted to experiment with different products, and I got a different kind of tuner, and they were just as good, if not better, in terms of do they function, do they put the guitar in tune, or do they keep the guitar in tune? Mm-hmm. And I didn't do any sustain tests,
Were these cheaper ones or?
But they were slight. I mean, there was more like they were easier to get.
Oh,
It
okay.
was like not cost cutting. It was more supply chain accessibility, right? But they felt like garbage.
Right.
And so, what's the customer's first interaction with the guitar when they sit down, if not to tune it?
Yeah, if
And
your first experience with it's
that,
negative.
if that tactile experience of turning the tuning peg feels questionable,
I don't know any players who care about how their notes feel.
well, then the tone woods don't matter. Do
I
they?
got John to change the tuners on this guitar because I wanted locking tuners, and I liked the style of these particular tuning pegs more than the ones he initially had. So that's why he's with me about
That's
that.
funny.
I'm that guy. I'm that guy.
But no, it a lot of times you'll find two products that are functionally equal, but there's this
Experience isn't.
Yeah. If I shut down because I don't like the way it felt when I tuned that G string.
I used to be the guy that used a different overdrive because I had this idea in my head that if I use that overdrive for this song, it sounds different. So the audience is going to get that. No, they're not. They're not going to get that. But the reason I will still, in some situations, do that is because I'll notice. It changes my experience of playing, and I will play differently. If I'm enjoying the experience, I will play better than if I'm not. So if changing up that overdrive, which sounds slightly different to me and no one else can tell, but if that makes me play better, makes me enjoy the experience better, then it's worth it. I should imagine it's kind of the similar kind of thing. Even if the audience doesn't notice,
Absolutely.
you notice. You're the guy playing it.
And they might not be able to. You might not be able to sit them down and say, "Did you notice the difference?" But a lot of people can't even hear the kick drum in a song. But if you take the kick drum away,
It's when
I guarantee you the band doesn't groove as hard.
It's when I got a new overdrive on my board and I changed for half the gig. I used the new one, and I asked the sound engineer afterwards. He's like, "I didn't even notice you did it." And this is the sound engineer. This is the guy that was analyzing the sounds. It's like that's how little difference it made.
Ed Clarke recommended.
I'm gonna take that sound clip of you saying that. That's going in loads. Anytime I say I like something. Oh, okay.
Ed Clarke recommended.
All right. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed with the bell icon to be notified of new videos. Thank you so much to John and to Matt. Have yourself a great day. See you next time.
No animals were harmed during the making of this video.